Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy TB. As always, you already know who it is, what time it is, and we finally made it to the NBA postseason. As I said in my earlier video, it's been a great year. Now on the East side of things, is more than likely gonna go through the top 3 teams in the East, barring some kind of crazy upset. But that doesn't mean we're not gonna see some good matchups in the first and second round. You have a great matchup with Cleveland and the Knicks. I actually feel like that matchup might be the best matchup in the first round. Then you got Mikal Bridges facing off against the MVP and the team that traded him on draft night, which he's come out and said plenty of times he's pissed off about. And I'll be honest, in the East there probably won't be too many upsets, but that does not mean there won't be good basketball. Before we fully dive into this video, this is the second video to my playoff predictions. If you haven't seen the Western Conference, go check that video out now, or check it out after this one. I would probably say check it out now because in this one we're going to talk about who the finals winner is. So I would probably say go to the Western Conference if you don't want no spoilers. But let's dive into it. This is very short notice because I originally recorded this video and I talked about the Bulls playing the Bucks. Well, I didn't really talk about it because I knew if the Bulls played the Bucks, it would be a wrap and very quick. But to my, well, I won't even say surprise, I was just gonna make this video anyway. The Miami Heat have won. They literally just won 5 minutes ago, and I'm gonna be real, it's gonna be a tough series for Milwaukee. Originally, I thought whoever the 8th seed was in the East, Milwaukee would probably walk all over, but with it being Miami, Miami is one of the tougher 8 seeds that I've seen in a very long time. Now, granted, Miami cannot shoot very well from 3, which is one of the key ways you would, want to beat Milwaukee because they're very big. They have a lot of size, especially at the rim. So shooting the ball is the best way to combat that normally. These two teams always have great matchups when they play against each other because there are some dogs on both sides, but also Bam Adebayo can match up very well with Giannis, whereas Jimmy Butler matches up very well against Chris Middleton. Now, what I think is going to be the deciding factor, and this is going to be a common theme for the Bucks in general, is Drew Holiday. He's going to be the X factor that moves the pendulum for the Bucks one way or the other. Miami's going to have to figure out a way to guard some of the other guys on the floor because besides Bam and Jimmy Butler, Miami doesn't have very many defenders. We saw this in the first play-in game where they struggled. They even had to play Duncan Robinson and a couple other guys that were scorers because they needed to come back in that game. Now, Miami can get to quicker starts when they're playing the Bucks throughout the series. That'll help them so much more because the Bucks are one of those teams that they can get up on you quick, and once they do that, they stay up because they're a pretty good defensive team, if not one of the best in the league, with Giannis being the anchor, or you could call Brook Lopez the anchor, one or the other. Though Miami is the better team to put up a fight against the Bucks than the Bulls are, I still think Miami is going to lose this. They'll probably lose it in 6. At the earliest, they're going to lose in 5, but I could realistically see them losing in 6. The next series is Boston and Atlanta, and similar to the Bucks, I got Boston handling the Hawks. Now, I do think Trey or DeJounte, or even both, they might have one good game resulting in a gentleman's sweep, but overall, I think the Celtics have this series well in hand to take it to 5, if not 4. Not spending too much time on those first 2 series because, like I said in the very beginning, we know the East is going through the top 3 teams, and their first rounds, it's not going to be that hard for any of those teams. The third matchup, we finally get a little bit of competition between the Sixers and the Nets, but again, it's nothing too crazy. The Nets, they have a pretty good squad, even after trading Kyrie and KD. Mikal Bridges playing out of his mind. He's exploded to another level with regard to his offensive play. Cam Johnson is playing very well off of that MCL injury, and their team, they're pretty good. They have some pieces, but I think Joel, Harden, Maxey, and a few other guys like Jaden Springer and stuff, they're going to be too much for the Nets to have to answer for. I have the Nets winning 2 games, but that's a stretch. I'm not even going to lie. I just spotted them a second win due to my bias of Mikal Bridges, but to be completely honest, realistically, the Sixers are going to win in 5, and I think Joel might have 2 40-point games. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, the next matchup, which is the most exciting of the first round in the East, is the Cavs and Knicks. This is probably going to be the one series where I watched two teams very, very intently that I haven't watched too much throughout the year. They match up very well with one another, and one thinks they're going to be next up in the East, while the other, they're actually going to be next up in the East. I'm going to leave that for y'all to figure out who it is. But personally, I was really hoping for a Cleveland-Miami series just to prove some points that I made early in the year, but this will do because I like to see Knicks fans feeling hopeless and pretty much crying about how they're out of the playoffs. Now the Cavs, they're not going to just walk away with this. I'd be dumb to think that. With Brunson and Randall and how well they've played this year, it's gonna be tough. If this was last year's Knicks, I'm telling you now the Cavs would be a shoo-in for the second round. I would tell you to book it, bet it now, but I can't do that because Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, all those guys, they've been hooping. Emmanuel quickly hooping. So while I do like to see the Knicks and their fans be in peril, I still think this series is going to go to 7. While we see Donovan Mitchell put up an offensive masterclass all series, while Evan Mobley does the same on the defensive end. This leads us to the second round, where we're first going to see the Bucks and Cavs. Now, off of sheer experience and more players being in the middle of their prime as opposed to either the beginning or before it, the Bucks will win this series in 6. The Cavs will probably get 1 or 2 at home, but after that, it's going to be a Bucks series, and we're going to see it from the very beginning. Mobley is an excellent defender, very young, as is Jared Allen, but I'm gonna be honest, they don't, and nobody else in the league besides maybe Boston has an answer for Giannis. And Jrue Holiday, he's the perfect defender to put on Donovan Mitchell to bother him all series with his height and his size at the point guard position. The Bucks are so well-rounded, but to match that, their size in the backcourt is going to be very difficult for the Cavs to get what they want, and I think that'll ultimately be why the Cavs lose. Now, I will say this is going to be one of those series that we look back on in a few years when the Cavs are one of the teams to beat, that we're saying, you know, this is where the Cavs kind of began. The next series in the second round is going to be the Celtics and Sixers. Now, other than the Eastern Conference Finals, this will be the best Eastern Conference matchup, I think. I sat there for a while contemplating this matchup, and honestly, every outcome I thought of, it had this series being decided in 7, no matter who won. On one hand, if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown play to their ability, matched with the production of the bench and their depth can bring, it's going to be hard for the Sixers to overcome that. But on the other hand, if the Celtics fall in love with the 3 and they can't get shots to fall, that will allow the Sixers to go on runs like we know they can, and they'll end up beating the Celtics. With the way Jaylen Brown has flipped a switch this season and Malcolm Brogdon providing so much scoring off the bench for the Celtics, I have them coming out in a tough one in 7 games, which leads to a rematch from last year's second round between the Celtics and the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, the Bucks and Celtics, this is going to be the absolute best matchup for the Eastern Conference Finals other than Philly would be. But somehow, I think it's still much better this way with the Celtics there. The Bucks faced the team that eliminated them and the team that guarded Giannis the best of any team in the Eastern Conference. Jason Tatum became a household name last year where he averaged 27 against them and even had a 46-point game back in Game 6 on the way to winning back-to-back games to make it to the finals. You couple that with Jaylen Brown averaging 22, this team is pretty scary because now you add the fact that Robert Williams is fully back, and this is speaking on a team that they had an amazing defensive run last year. So to think they might be even better on defense, it's very scary. Now Milwaukee, on the other hand, they've been the team to beat in the East all year. It hasn't changed. They haven't changed much other than adding Dragic, Crowder, and Ingles. Ingles has been a blessing in disguise for this team coming off an ACL tear, while Giannis is averaging 31 points on 50%, which makes him the first player since Wilt to do that. Many argue that Giannis should be the MVP over Embiid, and while I don't quite agree, I'm not mad at the argument at all. Now, I think the Celtics will use some of the same kind of game plan they used last year, where they essentially allowed Giannis to work and get his, but while playing tough defense on him and forcing the rest of the team to beat them. Last year, Giannis averaged 33 in the series against each other. Jrue had 21, but the next highest total was just 10 points, and that was from Pat Connaughton. Their main core hasn't changed too much, with the exception of Ingles probably getting more minutes than Connaughton. Now, I will say, they do have Chris Middleton back, so that does add a little wrinkle in the crease there, but I don't think he's going to serve too much of a problem for the Celtics. I think the Celtics can match him just as much as he scores, so it's going to come down to that third guy, the X factor, either Jrue Holiday, Al Horford, Robert Williams, whoever the third guy is for Boston on any given night is going to come down to those guys on whether or not Milwaukee or the Celtics win this series. I think for the Celtics, Brogdon is the biggest X factor, whereas for the Bucks, it's Drew Holiday. And if Drew Holiday can score at the same level he did last year, even with Chris Middleton back. Like I said, I still have the Celtics in a hard-fought 7 games, which finally leads us to the finals of the Celtics against the Phoenix Suns. Now this is going to be an amazing finals in my opinion, because you have two teams that are built in the starting rotation, and then you have Boston, who has plenty of depth, Phoenix, who they don't have a crazy amount of depth, but they have some kind of depth, and there's different pieces and different matchups within it to where this finals with these two teams, it's essentially going to be a game of chess the whole time. You have two great coaches in Monty Williams and Joe Mazzulla, and I'm not gonna lie, this finals will be a battle for the ages. And as much as it pains me to say, because both of these teams are teams I do not like, Boston will take it in 7. Jason Tatum will finally get his finals MVP, and we're gonna start talking about Jason Tatum as the superstar he is. Now hopefully he can start to show up in big games and primetime games, because he didn't really do that too much this year. But this is going to be Jason Tatum's coming out party. And if they win, if I get this prediction right, y'all are going to see me with a Jason Tatum jersey. But that's all I got for you guys in this one. This has been my 2023 NBA playoffs predictions. I think I'm going to do a review video at the end of each week or at the end of the round. One of the two. We're going to figure that one out. To stay locked in for the NBA playoffs, drop a sub, drop a like, and comment your predictions for the NBA playoffs. And until next time, it's your boy TB with the greatest hoop stories and debates on the tube. And I'm out. Peace.